السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Masjid Carpark podcast, episode 24.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam.
Was that a
Sorry,
delay?
there was a pause on the walaikum salam because I think it's a connection
Was there a pause
delay.
on the internet connection? Yeah. Let's blame the
No,
internet
it
connection.
was
Let's blame the
It was
internet.
both of you just sitting there looking blankly at me.
yeah, it's like a Zoom meetings.
Before we
no,
begin,
no, we heard it. We just this format. This is only our second time we're doing a live StreamYard recording. So, but alhamdulillah, all good.
before
here.
we begin, guys, please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Had to slip that one in there, Malana.
And share your comments and views on. Someone put a comment the other day about my view on the Kurdish-Turkish situation. They're probably right. It's probably they said it was debatable. Yeah, 100%. Even I think we mentioned it that the Kurdish nationalists say one thing and the the religious people they say a different thing. From the onset, it's debatable but I actually went and dug a little bit deep into the Kurdish-Turkish history. It's quite long.
Of course you did.
No, because I was curious. It's so multi-layered, so complex.
It is.
And surprisingly how much autonomy they had and under the Ottomans compared to later on, and then even how the early Ottoman Khalifas, they relocated them around, like they just to populate like East Anatolia, they moved them in there, and it's a very interesting long history. It's good that people do ask and question us on our. We're not experts, we're not historians.
That's all. One of the things is whatever we say, it's not gospel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we it's good that
it's three blokes
some
doing a
pushback.
podcast.
If we're wrong, we're wrong, So it's as simple as that. But history. I'm not a historian, but I have an interest in it, especially Islamic history and then early 20th century and 19th century history, like how it all sort of went sideways to a certain degree. What actually happened? I think that's what a lot of Muslims don't know. What happened? How many efforts were made by different people and trying to recapture the past, maybe. So anyway, it was just an interesting research or just a lot of reading, and then I realized, it's debatable and it's quite a complex across many lands and across many centuries, actually, not just so trying to be
further
maybe,
reading required.
Definitely 100%, yeah.
And debates, but that's not for today. How have you been, Lata?
So
I've been good, alhamdulillah. What about yourself?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
I'm not convinced. A new baby, I'm not convinced.
I mean,
busy man.
Yeah, I mean, he has been. It's getting him to sleep at the times I want him to sleep is the real challenge. And babies have their own time.
He's not listening.
He's not listening.
But don't you just say, "Okay, darling, it's time for you to sleep," and then put him down and just cover him with a blanket?
Oh man, I wish.
And then
I wish I could just do that and it just put on I don't know, like a button that just puts.
That doesn't work for us either. It doesn't work for us either. Well, alhamdulillah. What about you? So me, what's happening with me? I hurt my back, man, a week ago, and I've had a lower back injury for like 20 years, but every now and then it just plays up. So I just got over my knee injury from the waterfall incident last time when we went camping, and now the back, and now I'm just trying to recover. But I have started yoga.
MashaAllah. How's that gone? How's yoga?
Bro, it's
what, hot yoga? Hot yoga?
No, yoga, proper yoga. Because what happened was I went to the when I went to the hospital. When I went to the hospital for my back, I don't know. I just had different images in my brain when you said hot yoga, so that's why I didn't go there or touch it. Right. When I went to
no, hot yoga is that guy Bikram, whatever he started, where the room is heated up to like certain temperature to
this
be
is
like
winter in Melbourne.
Like West Bengal or something, to make it look like you raise the temperature that make the room really hot, and then you do yoga in there. The same pose and all that.
I went because when I went to the hospital, right, to get my back like checked out, whatever, and I had the most awesome this British guy. He was an amazing doctor, right? And he just goes, if you get time, start doing yoga. So, and then I said, oh, there's this person on YouTube that I saw ages ago. Because yeah, that's the one I was going to recommend her as well. It's been good. Like the first thing I do as soon as I wake up, it's like a 15-minute. It's only for lower back injury. I'm not going to try the other yoga stuff because it looks full on, right? Right? It's like touch your toes without bending your knees, stuff like that, right? Right? And I've noticed over the week a little bit of a difference. Today I got a little bit excited this morning because I thought,
flexibility.
What's that? Not flexibility, just in terms of a little bit more back pain. But yeah, this morning I noticed a little bit more flexibility, which surprised me. So I pushed myself a little bit hard. So now it's a little bit back, regressed a little bit. Hopefully it'll get better. What about yourself, Malana? That's me and my yoga. So before you know it,
your light just went off.
Yeah, because the thing is, the lighting that I've got, it's my computer screen, right? My monitor, and the thing is, it's on this timer thing. So every now and then,
take the timer off. Just take the timer off.
Just got to touch it.
I don't want to try and figure that out now. I'm just going to touch the mouse.
Are you wearing your wife's beanie or something? Because it looks like you got lace.
No, bro.
Is that a lady's beanie?
Yeah, it is. It is cold down. It is cold down here.
Is that a lady's beanie?
I wish I could see. I can't see anything.
That's better. I don't know. It looks like lace.
No, it's not lace. The way it's been designed, it's funky. Don't be a hater, bro.
Yeah, all
right. I'll crochet you one.
Yeah. Let's not get into that topic. No, alhamdulillah, this week started...
Why? What's crochet?
This week I started advanced study with some ulama overseas in fiqh, and alhamdulillah, it's researching and nerding out on like fiqh books, and alhamdulillah,
bro, that's right up your alleyway, man.
Yeah, it's actually very, very enjoyable. Research is very, very enjoyable. It's actually
okay. Did you hear what he just said?
The main
research is very, very enjoyable. Lata, how do you feel about that?
I mean, it depends on what you're researching. I have to agree. In some regards, research can be enjoyable because I do a bit of my research as well, but it's not like online.
I mean, we like what you like, but really like going into you pick up a book and the teacher guides you through reading a fiqh book that's written 400 years ago, and or 500 years ago, or 700, 1,000 years ago. One of them is about 700-800 years old.
Do you have books still that exist that were written 1,000 years ago?
Yeah, we teach. I've taught a book that's 1,000 years old. 1,000 years old, like a fiqh book I've taught in madrasa. So the point is that it's not just about the content or the text of it or translating it. It's the getting into the mindset of that jurist, who Allah accepted, and his work, and he's putting pen to paper and all the sincerity, and doing. And Allah gave acceptance to those books. And you see the like people who never slept at night time. There was some like that. They just study. Like one of them said, he goes, for 30 years, like my back never touched my bed. Like he never slept lying on his back ever. Like for 30 years. Like that's how dedicated, hard working they were. Their whole life was exhausted. And you get to read them. And then you not just read them. You get to go into the mind of that person. How is he structuring the book? So it's actually it's really, really like that guided type of study. It's a little bit different to like the main alim course, in where you're it's more about straight and narrow, because they don't want you like just when you haven't even studied the basics, you start forming your own ideas and going off the tangent and stuffing up things. No, because you need to sort of absorb a lot, and then this level of study is more like explore, research. It's a little bit open-minded, that's because you have to deal with so many differences of opinion. It's nice. It's like actually very deeper research and analysis of text and so forth.
When you read these old books, like these 1,000-year-old books, 700-800-year-old books, do you get a sense of the time that person lived, or are these books timeless?
Oh, yeah. No. The principles are timeless. because the principles are
Of
coming
course,
from Quran and Sunnah. But
Yep.
there's like cases in there, you know, are like such a sect existed in this area, and you had to pray. I'll give you a scenario like which I didn't know about, which was part of our questions, which was that a bribe, you had to pay bribes to a certain sect along the way to Hajj, right?
What?
Yet in that time, a sect has taken over a certain area. To get to Hajj, you have to pay a bribe to this group.
These guys, okay.
So else they won't let you go through, or they'll threaten you or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Is Hajj fard in that situation? And the muftis of that time, the imams of that time, they gave the fatwa, it's haram. So it's not fard. Hajj is not a fard upon you. Because to do haram, to do something good, absolves you of the obligation of doing Hajj. You don't have to do Hajj.
So the bribe is a haram.
Of course, bribery is haram. Bribery is haram.
Unless you just look at it, why not just look at it as a tax, land tax that you're doing to pass through that area?
But it's not a tax; it's a bribe. And if you don't pay the bribe, they'll kill you. So it's not a tax. You know.
I'm not a politician, bro. Okay.
Yeah. Your light's gone off again.
Yeah, bro. Just wait. You guys keep going. I'm gonna try and figure out how to switch this off.
Do you know what I appreciate about these books that you're studying, Maulana? It's what you were saying earlier about going into the mindset. Not just that, but that person was jotting down their thoughts 1,000 years ago, and here you are, you know, reading those thoughts that person had, you know, 1,000 years ago. Those thoughts and ideas. It's just I don't know. It's a deep concept when I think about it.
Yeah, and then the principles of that is applicable today as well, you know. So it's the principle of that is still applicable because it's something. Anyway, it's just something that I've been enjoying this week because it's sort of like the first week after a long time, and I realize studying is so much easier than teaching. I've been teaching for 7-8 years, sort of full time, and just sit back and listen to the teacher do all the work, or the hard part of the work, explaining things, and you absorb, and then you can sort of do your own research and things. But I've always have my own library, and I'm research and study all the time. But it was that research aspect of it, and trying to figure out issues and apply it to modern context and so forth. Anyway, it's just that's a new thing that I've been doing, more advanced studies, and that was really enjoyable. Other than that, that's the nerdy part of it. But the enjoyable part of this week was I got a drone, which I was going to use on my holiday, which I didn't end up going.
That's not the nerdy part of it.
That's the drones. Like I bought a cheap
drones
drone.
are cool though. Drones are cool.
I bought it for my sons' enjoyment. But my mum was upset with me when she saw me. She goes, like, you're a grown man and you're playing with a toy. And she said I went to the park. She saw a sort of park. I said, not a toy, it's a camera, and it's like it's a proper. And she said there was a grown man just like you with a beard and stuff, and he was standing in the park and he's playing with this thing, and like her things like should be like you're an adult, for God's sake.
Wait, she's old school. Was that you, that grown man she saw?
No. She's talking about somebody else as well. She saw another man, and she's now her own son, who's a imam of a masjid, who's playing. But you know what I realized why it's so enjoyable?
Two grown men with beards in the park playing with drones. You just freaked out the whole of Doncaster.
It was. No, sorry, I just got that. No. You know how small they are? They're 250 grams. They're 250 grams. 250 grams. They're 250 grams.
Wow,
so there's a legal number. 249 grams.
I think that's the size of one of those. What's it called?
It's a mobile. It's a mobile.
Yeah,
it's tiny, but you can cut your hand on the blades, like the cop.
Yeah,
it's actually
made it better.
Blades.
It's actually. It's got only 13 minutes. Got double. You swap the batteries. About 30-minute battery life, and you can send up to 900 feet or whatever, some ridiculous amount, and it comes back to you. If it's not getting good reception, stops. You won't go further. So when it starts a weekend,
really?
Stay in the range. It does a flip. It does. Yeah, it's you know what it is. I was thinking of why is this so enjoyable. You know what? Because the controller is like almost like a PlayStation controller, and it feels like a video games come to life, to real life. That's why I don't know. For me, it was like the controls almost exactly like a PlayStation. It was so enjoyable. I took my son out and my nephew, and I didn't let them use it because it was windy, because I don't want them to lose it because it was in the court and whatever.
What it was.
You can't use it in the wind because it's not. But the gaming ones are absolute nuts. If you see the proper gaming ones, they like those high speed.
The racing drones.
Yeah, Ahmed was telling us about there's actually simulators you can buy for that, so you can practice. Like
to practice.
It's got a headset. Yeah, you got a headset. The racing ones, they got like headsets and controller, like a PlayStation controller.
No, but they've got two. What did you say? So they've got two joysticks, and you control everything from throttle to the thrust, which is probably the same thing anyway. Height, the adjustment, the tilt of the rotors. So you control literally everything.
That's why. So before you buy it, you learn to do it on the simulator. You got all the equipment for it.
So you don't trash it when you get it.
Well, you don't waste your money. Yeah, exactly. So yes, but the drone flying, I get it now why it's so much fun. And then you make like a 4K video, you send it right up. Just the way it's hovering in the air. My son and kids, and nephew, they're just looking in awe at this thing just floating in the air next to them. Like it's making the zzz sound, and like and then you move it. You push the one joystick up, and it just goes like up straight up into the air, like 30, 40 meters.
If we've got access, if like the normal community, like just everyday people have got access to this, what does like military or science, like Asia or whatever? Imagine the type of stuff they've got.
I reckon
they've got stuff, but
on drones pretty soon, just everywhere. I mean, in the
next
couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, they did the first refill. They just did the first refill for an aeroplane, a fighter jet from a drone. Usually they refuel with those big, huge.
Yeah.
But this is the first time the drone filled a jet fighter somewhere. I think it was in the United States.
Yeah.
The mind just boggles with that. I'm speechless right now.
But it's a lot of fun. I'll bring it around. Lockdown's about to finish. Hopefully, we've got the 25-kilometer rule. But what's that? Yeah, we're recording this on Thursday night.
I think. 11:59
but what's the restriction that's lifted? What's left tonight? After tonight?
Restrictions wise.
They extended the kilometers from 10 to 20 or 25, I think. There's still no visitors, but you can meet outside. Have gatherings up to 10 people, and
the 10 people was there before, wasn't it?
Nah,
I'm not sure. I don't think so. And no more masks. You don't have to wear masks outside.
Oh, really?
Are you sure? No. I don't think so.
You
don't have to wear it outside. Are you sure?
Outside, but you still have to wear it inside. Yeah.
So the new restrictions are
25. Okay, the new restrictions are. The stay-at-home requirement's removed. 25k travel limit replaces the 10k one. All right. Yep. Unless you're going for work, education, care, or vaccinations, and then you've got that's one of them. And then you've got can't go to regional Victoria. Face coverings are still required indoors and outdoors. Not in private homes, obviously, or when an exception applies. Face mask must be carried at all times. I keep forgetting the face mask in the car, so that I keep walking back to the car.
Yeah.
Private gatherings.
You got to wear inside and outside. Yeah, you can't have private gatherings at home.
He's gone again. He's gone.
Either.
So with the new COVID restrictions, the 25k limit replaces the 10k limit. All right, so you can go a little bit further. You can go for more than 25k for work, education, or caregiving and stuff like that. Got to carry a mask at all times. You still can't have people come to your house. But when you're indoors, you still need to have a mask on. So I'm assuming Bunnings, Ray's Outdoors, whatever you want to call it. Public social gathering, maximum of 10 people allowed outside the home. And there's a 25% cap or 10 people, whichever is.
Yeah, we'll add him back in when he comes back in. He's having some issues, technical issues, so
Yeah,
we'll add.
that's right. He'll jump
add him
back in. He'll jump back in, and we'll
Yeah,
just let
sure.
him know where we're at. Right. So the 25k,
Yeah.
and I think all retail, everything's open again. So that's good. But
Okay.
however, I think there's a lot of COVID. What's it called? COVID fatigue going on. People are over it, man.
Mm.
Welcome back, Mr. Lata.
I'm over this camera.
Your camera's the wrong way up.
It's not the camera, but this whatever this is connection.
That's all right. He'll fix it. As long as you can hear us, that's the main thing, bro. So that's where we're at. I think. How are you guys feeling about this COVID snap lockdown? How did you go for the 2 weeks?
Honestly, I'm over the lockdowns. I'm over it, but at the same time, I understand the necessity of them. But I think since last year, right? Thinking about what we went through, especially Victoria, we went through a proper lockdown, and I'd assume that by now we'll get our act together in terms of this tracing of the cases. Apparently, this breakout happened out of I don't know if you guys know, it happened out
South
of
Australia.
quarantine. Yeah, weren't they? So they travelled from South Australia, but like with all the quarantine measures that we've gone through, you'd think that we would have I don't know, I assume that we would have a good system.
No, because what happens is the states are responsible for contact tracing within the state if a virus outbreak happens. However, international travelers, that's a federal government responsibility. The feds haven't got it right. So this guy that got the virus was actually cleared, but he walked through the same hallway as another person that had the virus because he was next door to that person, so they moved him immediately. However, that's how quickly it spread. Right? That's why he got the Delta virus came to Australia.
Yeah, but okay, so the Delta, so that's how it came to Australia. But how did it come to Victoria?
Because this guy was cleared when he left, but also this person was meant to check. He had symptoms for a week. He had symptoms for a week, but he didn't go get tested. He just decided to go to every venue in Melbourne.
The tests are also not accurate, and so a person may look like that, or even they can come out negative, right? And they might have it.
Yeah. If they're still going to have it, like, what's the point of the testing? They can't.
But it's
I'm just frustrated.
That's why a lot of businesses are saying stuff it, like, look, try your best and whatever, but we should not be closing the economy down and closing people's businesses down. I mean, why does Woolworths get an exemption and other small businesses don't?
Well, because they provide food.
Thank you.
They're also billionaires. They're also billionaires, and they make a heap amount of money. While the small businesses, why can't they follow the restrictions? We'll wait for him. He's got some internet problem, but can't do nothing about that. But why is it that they get exemption and you have like 100 people? Like today, I went to Woolworths. There's like 100 people plus. In my view, it was packed. Right,
but were they social distancing?
I mean, not really. I don't think most people really.
The thing is, in a place like Woolworths, the stores are massive, so you've got a lot more opportunity to do social distancing. When you have a little shop, it's very hard to do social distancing in small shops, right? So that's one thing. Yeah. And then the second thing is Woolworths.
Listen. I can tell you now. Today, I'll tell you my experience today. In one aisle. What I saw today was about 5 people in one aisle, and we're walking past each other. If you go to a local store, that's the exact same thing. Like today I saw with my own eye, this is like right next, there was me, there was another person, then I had to get past, there was 2, it was like 5 people in the same, somebody else had somebody with them. How is that acceptable? And while you go to a little small, and the small businesses, if it fails, especially there's no JobKeeper and all that now. If it fails, like they're not Coles or Woolworth. So why are the billionaires being helped, right? While the small businesses are made to suffer. So
could it be that the big shops? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but Coles, Woolies, places like that, they've got the infrastructure to basically keep Australia running in terms of food and stuff like that. A small business is not going to do that. Now, if you get 20 small shops in one suburb, it's going to be a lot harder.
I mean, that's probably one way of looking at it, but at the same time, it goes back to what are people really doing, right? So, like what Manon was saying, people aren't adhering to the rules in these shopping centers. I mean, I go shopping, I see it. People stand, next to me. Like no one's.
Most people don't care. Most people, what I've observed,
exactly. People have
they
got
wear the
COVID
mask.
fatigue.
They wear the mask. They do the QR code in Safeway today. They ask you to do QR code. Yeah.
What did you say, Lata?
No, I said people follow these rules not because, well, at least Allah. I think it's so that they can actually do their shopping. I don't think it's they actually care about avoiding the virus. There are some people you can see on their faces they're really
there's some
nervous
full-on people
when you get when you get next to them. You're just
like
you're trying to pick up
when you get 5 meters of them.
You're just like. And that person.
Yeah, there's the guys who wear masks inside their cars. I don't get that. I see people driving around with a mask inside their car. So there's that level of.
They could be Uber drivers.
People, I don't know. The majority of people, I think
they're by themselves.
Just want to get their they just want to get their day done. They just want to get their day done.
I think there's also a lot of COVID fatigue that's set in. So people are over lockdown. Like people are over, they're like, okay, whatever, let's just get on with it and deal with it. If it happens, it happens. But when you look at the flip side of the coin, where some sort of restrictions, some sort of action is better than nothing, look overseas. We see like there's I don't think there's any person or people that have got family overseas. They've all been touched.
The assumption is that, and I would have probably praised this at some point, but the assumption is that the reason why we're succeeding is because of the lockdowns, I
don't think it's a lockdown.
I think it's more than lockdown.
I think the economic. I think the economic hit is so much now, and Australia is also very spaced out compared to other cities in the world. Like we are a very large city, Melbourne. Like all our cities generally. Our suburbia is not like we have very few built-up concentrated population. Like most of Melbourne is like pretty flat. It's suburbia, it's spread out, right? So maybe CBD, like when they stop the CBD crowds gathering and so forth, that's probably where most of our cases, if it was spread, it was probably CBD. But other than CBD, like out in the suburbs and whatever, we social distance already because we don't go into each other's like a personal space. In Australia, we're not a very crowded place.
Yeah, we definitely have a sense of personal space compared to people overseas.
Yeah.
You know why Lata's laughing? There was one time we were at one place, and bro, I was just sitting there, and this guy came and sat next to me. I reckon 20 centimeters from my face. I just turned around and pretended that he wasn't there, and I just remember looking. I didn't even look at Lata. I just said, "I go the most bogan accent." Said, "When I go, bro, is he still like right next to my head?" And Lata's like, "Yeah, he's still there." So we do definitely have a sense of personal space here.
So maybe because of that space, our sparse population spaced out in public spaces, like compared to where large crowds are congregating, like. The main place probably was spread is the CBD. If it was a spread. Like
you also have to remember that Australia is an island as well. So all we have to do was just close our borders, and that's it. We're closed off to the rest of the world.
So you're advocating for complete border closure?
I think as long as we keep the borders closed, no need for lockdowns. I reckon we've got a self-sustaining.
So what about the Aussies that want to come back? This goes back to that debate that's been raging now for a little while. What about the Aussies overseas that want to come back?
Yeah, well, that's a tough one because I support people coming home, but I think, in this time and age, we should have a way of testing people and quarantine measures, done to the point where we're confident enough that, these things are not going to, cause havoc the way that they've been doing. So
Manus Island, 1 month. Send him to Manus Island for 1 month. He'll go through the whole thing, and then after 1 month, bring him back to Australia.
After 1 month, another flight comes, and they all catch it from the other flight, so they've got to stay another month.
No, then they come Melbourne. That's for example, to Australia, and everyone's been screened. The plane lands, and they pick them all up. They've been there for 1 month already. The virus has gone through them. They're probably, if it's gone through them, whatever, and then because it's got a cycle, right? So after it's not infectious after 2 weeks through.
How long 1 month is in a hotel room?
Bro,
it's not a hotel. It's a refugee. It's a refugee asylum seeker process.
Yeah, but that'll drive people.
It's driving people mental now in Melbourne. People going mental because of being in lockdown. So, for the 100, 200 people, and we can put TV cameras there and make it like Survivor, and and watch it from a distance, see who survives COVID lockdown and quarantine, and then after 1 month, and then bring him back. Then bring him to Australia. And it should be all good. And then do the next batch.
Or I think you're onto something, Malana. Maybe we should do like a show, and whoever wins gets to come home. Like a Survivor show.
That's even
guys, you guys. I don't know if this is.
Shouldn't laugh at people. People are suffering. People are suffering.
It's appropriate to laugh at people suffering. Of others. But,
we think it was a creative solution.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Survivor COVID.
Even what you were talking about last time, the Avalon Airport here in Victoria.
That would work.
Like doing a campsite, and that would work.
Well, the problem is the feds aren't willing to throw money. States have got solutions, but the feds aren't willing to go through it. You got to remember, international border arrivals, international quarantine is the responsibility of the federal government. No matter how many ministers come on and try and handball it, that's just the way it is. Now, when we have a leak from a quarantine facility, the states are saying, "Well, this was you guys," but the feds will come up with something else. Our quarantine system is in chaos. Like, it's not in chaos, but it's not as rigorous as it should be. And for that reason, we're getting these cases. I think more than worrying about overseas, we just got to make sure that people that we do know here that are alone or that we can reach out to, we do need to reach out to them. I mean, just the other day, I heard this Uber driver. Some guy called an Uber, and he's paying for this fare just because he needed somebody to talk to. So he wanted to speak. So he just chatted with the Uber driver.
Yeah, it's
just a correction as well. Just a correction. The feds in Australia usually refers to Australian Federal Police. I think what you mean is the federal government.
The federal government. Yeah, not the federal police.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not their responsibility. That's border force anyway.
Yeah.
I'm using the American terms, American lingo.
But I think in feds in America also means the FBI.
FBI. That's true.
Yeah. So again, you're wrong.
So the FBI,
English.
The FBI is responsible for the quarantine system in Australia. All right, where are they, and what are they doing?
Yeah. So anyway,
see, Malana likes to catch me out when I'm wrong because it's so rare that he has to pounce on it.
It's so common that I have a process for it, and I'm quite efficient in sorting it out.
He's already got a system.
He's got a system in place. Maybe you should run the quarantine system. Process, document that.
All right.
But you know what? We're talking about people coming in. What about the Biloela family? All right, they've been on Christmas Island. The Biloela family, the Sri Lankan family. That have been on Christmas Island since 2018.
So they were in Australia already. They were kicked out, correct?
Yeah,
so
they were in
Australia. Town in Queensland. I've been to that town, and then they kicked.
That's what happened. You passed through. They said, "Get all the ethnics out. Look at this bloke. We don't want more of him." All right. So
yeah,
right.
But
so
the town, no. The town actually is calling for their return. The whole town got together for that and protested. So and then the kids got really sick. Also, now they allowing.
But what you have to remember, it's not as simple or clear cut as both sides, the right or the left, make it out to be. All right, these guys came on a boat, so they were there. They applied. Their visa was rejected. They were all four of them were being flown back. However, on that asylum application, they hadn't put the youngest daughter. So when it went to the Supreme Court and the Federal Court, the High Court, not the High Court, sorry, the Federal Court, they said this young girl, this 3-year-old, hadn't had due process to have her visa claim heard. So that's why they were landed in Darwin and then they were taken to Christmas Island. Peter Dutton at that time said Christmas Island because when they do get deported, because they're not going to be staying here, they didn't want crowds turning up to Darwin Airport to protest. It would have made it difficult for Border Force officers. Now they're in Christmas Island. What the government is saying is, well, we can't allow them to stay because they came illegally on the boats. We don't want to open up the floodgates, so to speak. Remember that whole Tampa? We don't want to open up the floodgates.
Which is still in place.
So we don't want to open up the floodgates. That's actually stopped boat arrivals. And the federal government saying...
And that's one of the lines of the Liberals or even the government is that... I think it's started...
But that's a valid argument.
Kevin Rudd's...
But that is a valid argument.
People were dying, boats were sinking and people were dying. Not like in tens, like in droves, dozens were dying. I think one is 100. So it's not but that's not maybe the reason. I don't think they're doing it out of humanitarian reasons. I think they just want to stop the
of course. But that's the reason that they've said, right? This is the official line. Now what they're saying is if we let this family stay, this is going to open up the floodgates again. And not only the floodgates, they're saying this is just one family, and
they probably have more than one, like heaps of families.
Well, that's exactly what he said. This is just one family. What about all the other families with these similar cases? Where does it stop? So I get where they're coming from. My only, I suppose, argument with this is they've come from Sri Lanka, supported the Tamil Tigers, applied for asylum here. Now it's become so public, like so much publicity. Now when they do get home, there will be 40, how many reporters waiting at the airport, the government, the police, so many different things. So it is a serious issue. Now there's talk about them getting resettled to Canada and New Zealand. Again, I was reading today that may not happen either. So what do you do? The saddest part about this is you've got this 3-year-old girl, 5, 6-year-old girl, two guys, like the mum and dad. They're literally living on a detention center by themselves for the last 3-4 years. The girls get released into the community. Every now and then for play dates or whatever you want to call it, but that's it. Now that's got to do some serious damage to your mental health. Now imagine this girl, she's flown over now to Perth, 3 years old, with her mum.
I think Canada is offering them asylum, isn't it? Because Canada's got a huge Tamil population, massive apparently, Toronto I think. So so they've offered, I think something's been done there. So Australia won't take, the Canada said we'll take, or something like that. So
but a lot of these countries, when they say we'll take it, Australia says no. Especially when New Zealand says,
it's always Canada.
Canada or New Zealand.
The thing is that Australia also doesn't want to become a stepping stone for New Zealand
or Canada.
So it doesn't. And also you got to think up the pipeline, like the refugees to get to Indonesia. How much money they have to pay to smugglers on the way. So they keep whole like cartels and businesses like that they smuggle other things as well, the illegal business. It's not like the people ferrying them or getting them to certain points, they're like humanitarians. They're business people, they're criminals.
They're not. Actually. They are pure ruthless business people. They don't care about the lives of these people.
So for Australia to be harsh in it, to stop the whole thing, it actually shuts down the business of these criminals, which is easiest, like for us, we're here and we're comfortable and all that, easiest. But you have to look at it from the government's perspective. I mean, what's the alternative? Or what's the actual?
Thing. I agree with, like, this is going to sound really, I don't know, completely, can't believe I'm agreeing with it, but I do agree with what the government's doing. However, what the conditions that the family is housed in, this is where my problem is, with no contact with other people.
What's the thing about these detention centers that I think everyone kind of gets the wrong idea is there used to be 3 of my very close friends. They used to actually work in these detention centers, and what they used to tell me is that in terms of the facilities and
but detention centers within mainland Australia. Sorry, a lot of detention
Yeah,
centers within mainland Australia or on
within
like Christmas
mainland
Island or something.
actually Christmas Island is the one I'm talking about specifically. Their facilities are actually like pretty good. Apparently, food wise, they have excellent food. Living conditions is really good. They have internet. They have Foxtel. They have most things that most people want. The only thing that they don't have,
It's freedom
which is
of
actually
movement.
which is very important. But I don't like the I guess the narrative that I see in the media about how it's always about their living standards. And it's just like, be truthful. Their living standards are okay, but if you talk about their mental condition, right? I feel like that will have more of a better case on these people's situation and getting them out than playing at the living standards when the living standards are fine. Like you can't. It's hard to get sympathy for someone who has Foxtel, and that's your stance.
Yeah, but at the
it's
same
Foxtel,
time,
but
you've got to.
it should really be their freedom.
But Lata, do you remember when initially we had guys returning from overseas that had COVID that were sent to I think, I don't know if it was Christmas Island, Manus Island, wherever they were sent to. So people from Melbourne, Australian citizens coming back into the country, they were sent there and they were complaining about the living standards.
They were sent to Christmas Island, I think. Yeah.
So they were complaining about the living standards that they had.
Yeah,
there.
that was the one. They were coming actually specifically from China, if I remember correctly, and that was right at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. But what were their complaints though? Was it? And you got to understand those people's living.
They probably were just
right?
a bit shocked that I think let's say it was millionaires that coming back, or millionaires coming back.
Let's just say you have a house in a backyard, and then now you don't. You've got like a unit that you have to live in, and you're not allowed to go out when you want to go out, and you've got to stay inside.
But that's the biggest thing. When you're in that situation, nothing's going. The other things aren't going to matter. They're not going to look as good. They look good to us from the outside because we have freedom of movement. If you don't have freedom of movement,
I'm not saying it looks good to me. What I'm saying is I guess the way that some of these cases, these families' cases are being portrayed, the actual issue is their living conditions when that's not the actual case. The case
it's their mental health.
What I'm saying, it's their mental health, their lack of freedom, right? And they actually don't have freedom.
Why do we send people to jail? It's because the whole purpose of jail is not the punishment of someone going to jail. No, the punishment of someone going to jail is actually lack of freedom. That's it.
Yeah, but
everything else should be the same.
Don't we do it for two reasons? Because A, it's obviously their punishment, right? And then two, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. The other one is for rehabilitation to get these people, correcting their behavior.
Look, in what I see, it's
in the refugee cases, in the asylum, it's to stop them coming into the country because they represent the others that want to come here, and if they can get there into the country itself, once
others
they get here,
encouraged.
A percentage, not just encouraged, but sending them out becomes difficult. You have to catch them, number one, because if they're free to roam about and go wherever they want, it's hard to keep tabs to where they are. And then there'll be a certain segment of them that will stay here illegally. Yeah. Right? That'll stay here. These used to matter more in the past. And then people take advantage of them, and they work in the black market, the black economy, and so forth. So it is a multi-layered problem once they get in the country. So to stop all of those problems, is they're not come inside step on the mainland. That's what it is in a nutshell. Else, then you have to police, find out all the illegal refugees where they are in Australia, where they're hiding. There's a whole policing thing at the start. They become part of the underground, the black economy working. So it's not an easy. I don't envy the government. They have to make these decisions, but I think
it's definitely a hard job.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but I just imagined you right now sitting on Fox News and being applauded.
Look, we came in. No, but the thing is that there is a process for asylum seekers to come into Australia. Among those asylum seekers / refugees that are there, There actually is a process for bringing. It's not that they've totally shut down. They're not totally shut down refugees.
Some people don't have access to that process.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that's possible.
But a lot of people do not have access to that process.
But until it's established that we kept at bay, the problem is they drag this process out for like years, a decade almost sometimes, like 5 years, 7 years. People
That's right.
So
imagine if you were like a refugee that actually went through the process, sat there for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, and then some guy just cuts through the line, by paying somebody off, jumps on a boat or whatever.
Yeah. So they're jumping the queue and they're paying, they're jumping the queue. That's part of the problem. And Australia doesn't have a race-specific policy for immigration.
Is cheering you guys on right now.
Yeah. But it's the truth. But it's the truth.
I get it.
Like,
look,
people don't want to talk.
It is a very complicated
But if
issue,
you see the official immigration, policy, the race, I'm just letting you know this, race is not a factor in it. What's their reason for not doing it? It's definitely the legal aspect of it. Because if you look at majority immigrants that are coming to Australia, as far as I know, they're non-white. There's people coming from India and Pakistan, Bangladesh, and they're coming from China. They're coming from, there's brown, black, everybody's coming in here through the proper process. They bring some qualification, ability, whatever, to Australia. They've got a point system. So the system is good, and it's not based on your religion or creed or color or whatever. So it is a fair system, but they do their due diligence through that process to make sure this person is fit he meets all the criteria.
Okay, do you think if we had boats coming from the US or from the UK, we would still have the same reaction?
It's hard to say.
I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so.
We would not have the same reaction.
No. Australia, there is a difference. There is a difference from someone coming from the US and UK or New Zealand. Let's get even New Zealand. New Zealand is the best case. Between us is what? We've got treaties. We have specific treaties. We have specific immigration policy between. Like New Zealanders can live in Australia. Australia can live in New Zealand. Correct? Get all the benefits.
Yes.
Vice both ways.
They don't get all the benefits.
As an example, when they come here, all right, but they are treated differently already because they are from New Zealand. Because we are lined up economically. There's no economic risk to Australia by bringing New Zealanders in here. A lot of them. And then the US, for example, coming here, I don't think Australians. Well, let's actually put a real case: US and Canada. US and Canada next to each other, and there were Americans who thought they could just walk into Canada, and they got the rude shock. I don't know if you remember this. They got the rude shock after there was actually a Trump supporter said, "I'm going to move to Canada." I don't know if you saw this.
No.
And the Canadians said, "You're not welcome here." And then they got the rude awakening that you can't get. You have to apply for a visa.
No, what I'm talking about
it's not like you just walk in. She thought she could just walk into Canada.
Where I'm coming from is if, for example, there was chaos like there is where these people are coming from. A lot of these people are coming from in the US, for example. War, whatever, economic hardship, all of these things the types of places these people are coming from. If it was an environment like that, do you think the Australian government would say, no, go through the normal process, stay in a refugee camp for 10 years?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
That's what I'm saying.
Are you sure? Why do you say definitely not?
Well, it goes going back to what you were saying about how these countries have treaties set up. They have different agreements. There's a long-standing history with them. So it would almost be like, these are allies and friends that we need to help.
They are allies. They are. I think we forget that they are allies. There's a treaty. It's called the ANZUS Treaty. Australia, New Zealand, US.
The ANZUS Treaty.
We actually have a treaty. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. So there's that narrative, and so because of that narrative, it would be a lot easier for if there were refugees from the US or
there'll be an uproar if they accepted.
It'll be a lot easier.
If you see in South Africa, the whites in South Africa, right? Are they allowed to come in Australia just like that? Is there any news of that? I don't know. I'm just saying. Is it assumed that they can?
There's a lot that have moved here.
No, they've come in, but not like there's a separate policy for them.
Yeah.
There doesn't, but the thing is, just with the applications, I'm not saying there'll be a separate overt policy.
So if there's no policy, an individual guy sitting at the immigration
it-
office who looks at that case, that's his thing. Is he be given a directive
No,
from the
but
top? If it was
directives
given, that'll be on the news. That'll be on the news.
There's many directives given from the top that are not on the news.
I don't think so.
That don't make the news.
I don't think so.
Me personally,
not possible. Not possible.
Bro, come on.
I mean,
man.
if it was interest, if it was to protect the interest of the country, yeah, they would have to hide it. They wouldn't be on
yeah,
the
but
news.
you don't. Because it's such a long chain, and you got case officers like low-end workers at the bottom who are deciding on who comes into the country. Like they're actually case officers. If you made a policy like that, it'll take no. If you one of those case officers gets a conscience or becomes disgruntled employee
like
or whatever. Yeah, and you're not talking about one person sitting there. You're talking about thousands of people overseeing cases. It's not like 100 people. It's thousands of people working because the amount of immigration into Australia or pre-COVID was so much. We're talking about hundreds of thousands coming every year, right? You can't have if a guy's looking at how many caseworkers are there. You know, I mean, I'm curious. It's probably in thousands or tens of thousands working in Australia. So you can't maintain a large conspiracy, let's call it, on this issue, unless you have everybody on board, and the idea no one will break ranks and expose the actual policy.
Fair calls, because now this is just reminding me of going back to the COVID conspiracy theory. Speaking of people coming
there's probably a guy named Raj sitting, you know, or Muhammad sitting and doing, he's probably working there as well. So I've never heard of anything. So you have to prove it. You can't just say, make a claim to the government choose. I don't think the Australian government picks and chooses the immigrants based solely on. They have to look at their matchup. So that's why Muslim migrants come in large numbers. Brown like Hindus come in, Indians come in, Africans come in. They do come in. I think it's a fair-handed. It's probably a fair-handed policy. Allah Alam.
Speaking of people coming in, there's a lot of guys from UK, other countries that are living in Australia that are moving out. They're actually leaving Australia because of its strict quarantine laws that, you know, recently was announced, don't think about traveling overseas till halfway through 2022. So people are saying we can't live this long without seeing our families. And there's a lot of, I mean, obviously, a lot of the Australian population has a huge amount of family overseas. And they've migrated here. So they're actually selling up and moving back.
Back to the UK?
Back to the UK, back to wherever they came from.
But it's pretty restricted over there as well.
No, COVID, but at least they're with their family. Here, their problem is you can't just fly out, see family, and fly back in.
Yeah. I mean, pre-COVID, they had this. They actually created the first. What was it? Direct flight from London to Perth. That was like a straight flight. That's you know, you can.
That's a long flight.
From Melbourne, you catch a flight to what was it? Perth, as an example, and then from Perth directly to London. You know, so you don't like it's a direct flight from Australia to London, meaning that there was so much traveling back and forth that it was worthwhile considering. This was the single, I think it was the longest flight in the world, like direct flight in the world. So it shows, there was and that was probably attractive to you know UK citizens to come here to live here in Australia.
Now with that, speaking of direct flights to Melbourne. Going back to these people that are leaving Australia or whatever, going to the UK. Now, once they've packed up, they've gone their whole life. Can you imagine what a huge move that would have been? Just the logistics of that as well.
Especially in this climate, like I don't think they've got any idea what they're going back to, even back home. You know, because they would have left the UK or wherever they came from in a particular state, right? Pre-COVID, and then going there. But then they would have a slight idea because of what's happened here. But
they've got lockdowns over there as well. They've got lockdowns there as well.
Yeah, but don't you think it's a little bit?
But
more,
mentally, you have this picture of what it was like.
Yeah, and not just that, but like I feel like we've had a lot lighter here.
I think what you said before was more the family being away from family and loved ones for so long.
That's what they're struggling with.
A year is ridiculously long. And may now go into the second year. I think for some people it's just too much. And because it's family, and family helps you cope with the mental stress as well, because you're sharing the thing together.
Yeah.
I think from a distance, especially if you're single or just like a couple probably that's come, or a young family and all the grandparents, everybody's over there, it's not happening for them. So it's understandable. Like, it's worth probably the move for your own sanity to go there. All right, it's going to be restricted over there. It's a mess over there, but I don't think it's more about what Australia is doing inside Australia, because they have lockdowns there as well. So
it's about the ability to travel, international travel.
Yeah,
the ability to just go and come back.
That might change very soon, because I was reading today about the international. They're already implementing in the international. They call it the vaccine passport. So it's EU's already doing it.
I thought they scratched that idea.
It's coming here. It's 100% coming here as well. So you'll be able to travel overseas if you have the vaccine. Like, it's a digital vaccine passport, you could say.
That's concerning.
What's that?
That's pretty.
I said that's concerning.
Why is it concerning? You need a passport to travel already. If you go Hajj, you've got to do meningitis. All of us do the meningitis vaccine.
I never have any problems with passports. I'm just saying a universal passport for, because I'm
no, it's not a universal. It's a digital ID of your vaccine. When we go Hajj, we have that already.
But is it?
I don't understand what people are talking about when they.
No, what I'm saying is that digital ID different to, say, when I go to the UK? Can I use the same ID? It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's basically it's a vaccine. It's a certificate of your vaccine. Put it that way. That's all it is. You still got your own passport and stuff. It's got nothing to do with your passport or your citizenship. It's a certificate that you've had the vaccine.
Yeah, but you can't travel without it. So
because you need to have a vaccine, because you can't be carrying the sickness into the country.
Yeah, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, it does have something to do with the passport, because without
the 1 million Hajjis, 1 million Hajjis pre-COVID. I don't know if you've been Hajj. 1 million, because I was going Hajj as a religious thing for many, many years. Every 2 or 3 years, I had to get it redone. A meningitis letter has to be signed by a doctor in my passport. Every 2-3 years, I had to renew the meningitis. I took like 2-3 of them, like over 7-8 years.
I would feel comfortable with that.
What's the difference between it being on a piece of paper or it's like a app in your phone? What's the difference?
No, so the issue, the concern that I have is that it's universal. It's centralized, like one body.
It's not centralized. It's not centralized. Not one body.
Okay.
Like European Union will do their own one. European Union is doing it. Australia's going to be doing its own.
We just recognize their passport.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
just like Australia has its own passport and UK has their own passport to travel. We just recognize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's like that, European Union has its own, and Australia will have its own. From what I understand,
I haven't done any research on it. I just assumed it was like a centralized, universal, I don't know, COVID password.
And if there is,
what they're going to do is they're going to put microchips in our arms. So then
we can receive 5G.
You don't even need the passport.
We can receive 5G.
So that way you've got reception everywhere you go.
I want to get that 5G Huawei signal.
Imagine laughing about that now, and 5 years down the track, what would you guys do if they were talking about inserting something in your arm? Honestly,
I'd be like, here, just chuck it in there, just let me travel. Chuck it in, let me travel.
Would you really do it?
Yeah, I would just be like, depends what it does.
I just put a microchip. I just put a microchip into the cat, and it's fine.
Look, it would depend on. Look, if this microchip allowed me to have access to my mobile phone through my, pupils or whatever, I'd be down for it. We got the funny thing is, we got all these people like Australia, we're in lockdown, all of these things.
I don't get.
In the US, you got.
Yeah.
Sorry, go. You finish.
No. I was just saying. I don't know why people worry microchips and these things.
It's all about loss of control.
You got a mobile phone that tracks everything you do, your movement.
You can turn that off. You can turn it off.
Yeah, but is it really off?
You have at least you've got some sort of conception. I can break it if I want to, if I'm really paranoid. You know what I mean? Whereas,
but you don't. The issue is that you don't. The whole point of having this is to keep it on. This is the thing. It's made to be kept on, and when you don't get a low battery warning, and you charge it straight away, nobody's switching it off. If you don't want it, it's a different story. But you do want it, and you do want to be tracked, and you want to get the most accurate GPS location that you want to get. So this is, I think it's a false narrative. I don't think this is the. I don't buy the whole thing. If a person was like, we want Facebook to know exactly what we want, Google to know what we want. It sounds scary, but their suggestions
it's
are
not
so
we
good.
want, they already do. Yeah, exactly.
Like me, like like I was looking at hoodies, and the ads that Facebook come up with on hoodies was so good. And I was showing my kids mashallah, how good is Facebook? Like, they know what I'm thinking. They're actually showing up all the ads, and we looked at it. And the kids are saying, mashallah, that looks really sick. Those hoodies that's what we want.
I remember just last week I was looking up for bike repair stands. Now every feed anywhere I go, all I get is bike repair stands. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and they show you the best ones, and that's good.
and the prices are really good.
And we're in a relationship. We're in a very good relationship. We're in a very good relationship with Facebook. That Facebook knows our needs before we even, ask. I mean, how beautiful is that? Like, it anticipates our needs. Good on them.
Okay, bro. I don't even know where. There's a lot to unpack there, which we don't have time for.
Yeah.
We're all in lockdown here, worried about lockdown. US just had a fight with Logan Paul. And what's the other guy? Mayweather. I didn't see much social distancing.
It was the worst. I didn't watch it because it was just too. I heard about it. Somebody sent a video of this two kids bashing each other in a playground. They're having a fight, and someone put a comment that was more entertaining than the Logan Paul and Mayweather.
The fact that after after the fight press conference. The fact that Mayweather sits there and goes, I had a lot of fun, he wasn't taking it seriously. You know what I mean? But Mayweather was impressed with the fact that Logan Paul, I think his name's Logan Paul, lasted the distance.
Yeah.
He was very impressed with the fact that
he lasted against one of the... Look, the guy's 44 years old. He's old. Boxing-wise, he's old. So...
Yeah,
he's
44 isn't old. Just boxing-wise is old.
Yeah, it's old, and he's not in his prime. He's way out of his prime. He looks like someone said he looks like a 44-year-old man, and the other guy's like at the prime of his life, in his 20s, and he's been training. Like, it's not just like the guy's been training
all year.
Yeah, exactly. So it showed that he held the stamina was there. He held. It wasn't like the the fight that he had. 2 years. The guy's only had 2 fights. Right?
He's had 2 opponents, He's had a YouTuber and the pound-for-pound greatest boxer of all time.
Yeah, so he said it's not about winning. And he himself said, Logan Paul said, it's not about winning. It's about becoming the greatest entertainer in the world. For him, it's the eyeballs, the attention.
Lasting the distance.
Yeah, so it's not...
They had 1 million pay-per-view sales from this.
Yeah, so...
Do you know how much they made each? 100.
How much?
I think 35. Yeah. 35 went to Mayweather, and I don't know how much.
Mayweather. That's just for the fight itself, but for everything, the pay-per-views and
the fight was 10. The fight was 10.
Serious boxers
I'm
and
talking
boxing
about
fans.
The whole thing altogether. They got 100 mil for it.
Are you sure? I don't think it was. I thought it was 35 mil.
Yeah, it was something like that. No, it was quite a big.
No, 100 mil.
Anyway, it's a lot. It's a lot more than ever we'll see.
A lot of money.
But it's serious boxers and serious boxing fans will not. They will.
It was more a laugh. It was more just let's see what happens.
No. They won't. They will feel it's embarrassing to the sport. This is like embarrassment to the sport. It's about money But this is This is a mockery. Like the boxers, serious boxers. This is a mockery of boxing. The art of boxing. But anyway, because the whole point of it was not to they didn't have judges even. They
didn't have judges or anything like that. That's right.
Yeah, so just an exhibition thing to make money. That's what people are.
He might have made $100 million, but that $100 million is still peanuts compared to Jeff Bezos. This guy, billionaire, he's made that much money. He started his own space company. What's it called? I got it.
Virgin Blue?
What's he?
Blue?
No, that's
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin.
That's it.
So he's going to space. A man is going to space. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's I suppose if you got that many billions of dollars,
well, at least he's beat Elon Musk. You know.
Yeah. He's actually.
He worked quietly. He worked quietly. Elon Musk just talks and talks and talks. And this guy behind the scene actually he's put his money where his mouth is, and he's actually doing it. He's actually going.
The last month or so, just within general public, within a lot of people, Elon Musk has lost a lot of respect with a lot of the stuff that he's done.
Did you see Anonymous yesterday? Is he Anonymous?
I saw that. Yeah.
They basically gave a sort of veiled threat, and they exposed him as a narcissistic.
Yeah.
Someone even put Jeff Bezos' timeline. You know, like they put his timeline of how he made $1 million, $1 billion at the age of 31, 33. And someone pointed out, yeah, you forgot to mention that at the age of 28, he got $250,000 loan from his parents.
Bezos or Musk?
You forgot that little bit of detail.
Are you talking about Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk?
Bezos, yeah. You get $250,000 like that. And yeah, so these guys are not coming like from hand to mouth, and then they made million. Or the best one is Elon Musk as well. Someone pointed out that this guy got money. He's South African farmers who lived off
parents. Yeah,
they're millionaires already, right? So for them to people forget those little details of where they started, and they act like they made it.
But the story doesn't sell as well. That's why.
Yeah, I'm an inventor, but my parents were rich. Doesn't sound as good as like...
No, the best one is Trump. My dad just gave me a $1 million loan.
Oh,
you know?
a
small $1 million. Small.
Yeah, that's what he said. That's what he said. I go, yeah, he only gave me a one.
And he gave me,
he gave me $1 million loan, and that's how I came from nothing. You know.
Yeah.
That's how these guys are.
That's like even Trump when he talks about his his Vietnam War. The draft, what's it called, exemption. I think the official thing is that he had a heel spur or something, and he was asked about it. He couldn't even remember what it was. He couldn't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
So and now they're becoming the saviors of the world. But good luck to him. That's pretty cool. They go. I would go. If I had that much money, I would work out how to.
I'm not sure what it means that he's going to space. Is he going to like do an orbit of the Earth, or is he going to like the upper?
I think
or he's just going to the.
Musk's company is sending 4 people to the International Space Station. 1 real astronaut and 3, what do they call them? Amateur astronauts.
Yeah, space tourists. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They're not anyway.
So what do you think? Book a flight?
Yeah, not yet. Not yet.
How much will you pay? How much will you pay if for a space flight? Let's just say half an hour.
Right.
International Space Station.
It depends how much money you have. Right. Okay. But the thing is, if you look at...
Let's just say you've got $50,000 hypothetically to splurge.
I'll pay 50K.
That's not your savings? It's not your savings. Would you pay 50K?
I'll pay 50K, without a doubt.
No. How much savings do I have? How much savings do I have?
You're well off. You're
like
okay. You're well off. You don't need it.
That's your throwaway money.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy like a second car or something, like you got so much spare money, you paid off all your bills, you own 2 houses. I mean, as an example, yeah, that's possible. 50,000 is
right.
Not a lot.
If I had 50K and I didn't even, if I had 200K and I didn't have my own house or my own car, I would spend that 200 on going to space.
You know what's crazy about that too, though? It's like you're literally going to see nothing.
You're going to see the Earth, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the Earth from where you are, but like once you leave Earth,
that's literally a once in a lifetime experience. Yeah, I'll do it.
I know it's a one-time experience, but when you think about it, it's actually you're staring into nothingness. You know, it's like there's nothing there.
I would
imagine you get there and just you feel nothing. Oh, this is it.
Yeah.
I bet you there's one guy like that.
Imagine you get there and the Earth is flat.
It's on a giant turtle. It's on a giant tortoise back.
Going through the atmosphere.
Yeah, all the conspiracy theories are like true. You know, it's flat and it's hollow at the same time.
That's what they need to do. Send a couple of flat earthers.
And there's a waterfall at the end of it.
Yeah.
All right.
That would be interesting. It was the most recent thing that went to China, the US delegation that went to China, it was basically a massive snub because China's been so serious about making making sure that Taiwan is their territory, or things like, and all this, and the oceans around
If it's
China
their
and Taiwan.
territory, they should take it. They won't be able to take it.
They should take it.
No, there's
As in,
no
are
way
you
they'll be
talking
able
about
to take
China?
it. But he's talking about
Just
China
take it. If
taking
it's your
Taiwan. But if you look at the history of Taiwan, the
I
Taiwanese
feel sorry
people
for them,
have
man.
been colonized so many times. Japanese, Chinese. The Americans were on their side, and then as soon as United Nations, China wanted to join it, they ceased to
They
recognize
just
Taiwan as a separate country, and then just so much stuff. They copped it from everywhere.
Well, if you see the image of this is like the way they present themselves, the Americans. They arrive on a U.S. military airplane, a giant thing,
and
right?
the military
And they
airplane
do the
there,
press conference.
yeah.
They do the press conference in front of it, and it's written on it, U.S.
US
military Air Force, U.S. Air Force.
And the plane they chose was very significant because
What's the
usually
plane?
they do go on Air Force planes, right? But they're like converted 737s. This was a troop carrier. This thing transports tanks. This thing transports helicopters.
It's a big plane.
Huge amount of soldiers.
But just standing under it saying U.S. Air Force,
yeah,
we're
on your territory.
We put our flag
in your territory. Yeah.
Yeah, try taking it. Try taking it. We'll see what happens. That's what it is.
And it's basically saying you say this is your territory. Guess what? We just landed on here with our Air Force.
Yeah, exactly. And our ship moved in the area.
That's a massive, slap in the face for China.
The only way the Chinese will take Taiwan is the US collapses. Other than that, is no way in the current position China can come close to militarily, sea-wise, navy-wise can come close to what the US has got. I mean, just from looking from a military, navy, and ability perspective.
Even the Taiwanese people, they're fiercely independent. Because they've been smashed that many times now, like compared to most races, they are fiercely independent.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, what's the name?
Sorry?
The guy who started it, what we have, the modern Taiwan, is basically the nationalist who fought against the communists and tried to purge the communists. And doesn't mean that because he's a nationalist, he's a good guy, and they're communists.
Yeah.
They made China what it was by being so ruthless against the communists. Like they killed millions. The nationalists, the Chai Shek, whatever, the guy who Chai Shek Chen, whatever it is, the guy who went and took over and he ran away from 1949 or whatever from mainland China and established a separate government in parallel. He ruled mainland China.
He actually transported, before he ran away, all of China's gold reserves to Taiwan.
Yeah. He had Muslim generals and stuff like that, but he was ruthless and he killed a lot of people, and the communists were rounded up. So once he left and he was defeated by the communists, then they basically inherited the whole, that sort of aggressive, he created the whole situation between them. So you can't blame China, but at the same time, I mean, historically they were as bad as each other. Now what you have in China, in Taiwan, is probably a more quote unquote democratic,
Which you do, that's correct.
Yeah.
But if you listen to what
to produce it was
China, what China did or what the Japanese did in Taiwan, just the thought of what's happening to the Uyghurs in China is scary.
Yeah.
What they're capable of.
Yeah, they're trying to engineer them to have less children and all these sort of things. Yeah, Allah help them. Anyway,
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect them, man. That's a lot of zulm. But that's emperors for you. That's what happens when Xi Jinping. He is like the emperor of China. You can call him President Xi.
He's literally the king because he'll be. They've actually passed the law that he will rule until death.
There you go. So he's literally the emperor of China. I mean, talking of emperors, actually, we've got our emperor of India we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, Aurangzeb, Alamgir, the scholar king, who ruled a Muslim ruler who ruled the most expansive rule of
4 million square kilometers.
Yeah, wow, so he was the most. He's not liked by some Hindus, I guess. which is that because he reintroduced the jizya. But strangely enough, he had like 30%. He had the most non-Muslim Hindus working in his administration.
And
right?
you know, they say he destroyed a lot of temples, but he also built a lot of temples.
Yeah, which is, what does that mean? Like, is that even allowed in Islam? That's another thing. So
I don't know. I know where I'm coming from.
So he's hated. He's hated a lot for some reason by a lot of, maybe for the fact that it could be both, could be true because it's rulership, right? And there's bloodshed, there's wars,
it's politics,
and moving, and he was moved around. He ticked off his dad, Shah Jahan, and he moved him. He relocated him. He sent him to Balkh to deal with Uzbeks or whatever there, and then he retreated back to Kabul. And interestingly enough, they ruled such a vast area. Then he was sent very far away. He was to rule they call the Deccan Plateau or the Deccan Peninsula, which was in southern India, and he was interestingly enough that Hyderabad didn't exist then. Obviously, this is pre-Hyderabad. But the Deccan existed, that region, and he was sent there to as a governor. Then when he came home or came back to the palace, he walked into the palace because he chose a life of faqiri, simplicity, right? So when he came into the palace with military attire, because he didn't really care much for that, his father had him banished to like a Balkh or whatever.
But that's because he came. I read that because he came 4 weeks after the death of his sister to the funeral. Oh,
because she was in an accident, burnt, and he was late. But he was also military campaigns. But his father, I think Shah Jahan lost it a bit, and at the end of his life, he had him arrested and put him in house arrest so he can stare at the Taj Mahal, which had wasted so much of the wealth of the Baytul Mal. And when he came, he was a total opposite.
Yes.
Like, he wasted the Baytul Mal, the public treasury, and this grave of his wife that he loved maybe so much or whatever. And so he had him arrested. He was going to build another one across the river, a black one.
Yeah.
Like a matching one for himself. I mean, imagine wasting like another 20 years building a building in marble and whatever, 80 tons of the Muslims or of the Khilafah or the rulership or whatever, and in a place that you're not going to probably see. Like your body's just going to be interned in there. Anyway, so he had him arrested, put him across. He treated him well, his father. We're talking about Shah Jahan, right? The father of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb is such a genius because part of my studies at the moment was to reading Fatawa Hindiya or Fatawa al-Mghiriya. So this is like the royal fatwa collection. Under his watch was created. He appointed as alim, and there's a team of 28 ulama who worked 10 years. Everything that was written every day was presented to him. Like 3-4 pages.
Everything.
So, yeah, and he used to critique it, and even found mistakes with a team of ulama, academics and experts. Like, he must have been a genius, because while
he was an alim as well.
He was not just an alim. He was like top-notch alim. He became a hafiz when he was a ruler. Like, imagine expanding the empire. All the administrative things that he brought, and then to become a hafiz of Quran, and then that fatwa was presented to you every day over 10 years, 3-4 pages are read, and he corrects the mistakes of the alims who are specifically sitting for that. So he wasn't just like people today think like these rulers are only military. Like, he was a military genius. He was a socio-economic development that he did, but also he was an alim of deen. And you know how he lived? He used to stitch caps, crochet.
Yes, I was about to say that. Such an aesthetic.
And write Qur'ans. He had like perfect handwriting. He was an expert calligraphist. Like, he's a multifaceted, amazing individual. Someone worthy of really the Muslims is one of the heroes of Islam. But his genius, the amazing thing about it is that work Fatawa al-Mghiriya, which is named after him, right? So Fatawa al-Mghiriya, it's known as Fatawa Hindi as well. It's in Arabic. I think it was translated Urdu and Farsi and other languages. The Muslims ruled by it for next 300 years, and it's like a staple, especially for Hanafi muftis. It's a staple. It's like one of the references, 8 volumes. The one version I've got, and it's an amazing. It's a masterpiece of fiqh. Right,
and the way he used to make his money was when he sews his caps, He used to sell that and live off that.
Yeah, and he ate what the servants ate. So it's a
Yeah.
very different type of ruler to come in the history of India. But subhanallah, Allah have mercy on him. People only see the battle side for it. For the ulama, they see the ilm side. He's got a legacy that's lasted. I'm studying his book this week. Like I got a class on it this week. The Fatawa Hindiya. It's amazing actually. Like that. This ruler had a say in the compilation of this fiqh book, which amazingly the ulama have said that 123 in the Hanafi fiqh references before that time they relied upon. So another 123 books and encyclopedias that relied upon to produce this work. So it's a very authoritative work, right? It's an encyclopedic work. But yeah, anyway, point being, the scholar king, literally he was a scholar. He was a great king and a great scholar as well. Like he wasn't a scholar who was aloof from the populace. He's a great. This is tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a rare thing to be pulled off by anyone. This is a rare thing. And then his personal ibadah, his piety, like he never missed the hajjud. He never missed the last 10 days itikaf for Ramadan. And like so, his personal piety is also exempt. He's an amazing person. People say we're busy. The guy's becoming a hafiz, ruling a country, and he's
ruling a continent.
So subcontinent, not a continent, but it's called a subcontinent for a reason, and not the whole subcontinent, a section of subcontinent. But anyway, he was an amazing person and worthy for Muslims to take a lot of lessons, especially that part, of his personal timetable. I went to the Red Fort in Delhi. Have you been there?
Yes.
Have you guys been there in Delhi? Yeah. So within Red Fort, you'll see, I think it's called Moti Ki Masjid, the Pearl Mosque. So it's a little mosque. That's his mosque where he used to pray Tahajjud. That's his little mosque. Within the fort itself, the fort is massive. It's huge, sprawled out complex of massive walls. Like the bricks of it, like the.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think been there, bro.
The Red Fort. So that's a massive, huge, like complex. I mean, each brick is the size of a room, right? So just imagine the size of the. If you look at that fort, it's amazing. It's a study in itself, a whole podcast in itself. But then within the fort, the grounds, like it's huge, like fields, where the armies used to hold. They used to hold an army of 100,000. Within that, there's a masjid, little beautiful masjid called the Pearl Mosque, and that mosque is like they say his mosque, and that's where he prayed and so forth. Anyway, an amazing personality of the ummah. His personal life. And his heroism, and also his governorship, he was sent to Balkh in Afghanistan. That's one thing to understand about the Mughal rulers. Until Akbar came, they were based in Farghana, Central Asia and Afghanistan. And Indian was just like a frontier. Akbar, his grandfather, he flipped it around. Right? So he made Delhi the base, the headquarters of the Mughals. And the other... Farghana and all these other places, they became the frontier, right? And they became indigenous by being there for so long. So history, people are trying to fix things in time, but over time, like Australians, what's an Australian? What's an Australian in our mind? Things change, the world changes, people change, populations change. That's just the world how it works. People are trying to fix things. This belongs to who and so and so. People are saying this belongs to Palestine or this belongs to Israel. Or this belongs to. These things will change. They will. History is not static, and what's considered one person's, it'll change. In Australia, generally we don't consider Australian, Aborigines in Australia, we don't consider them as the only Australians. Obviously, we say the indigenous Australians. But we don't exclude everybody else as being non-Australian. The world has a way of changing and transforming, and so they became indigenous, right? But anyway, by Aurangzeb's time, he created a fiqh manual or encyclopedia, which was then used by the qadis and judges to rule by. So it's a masterpiece of fiqh actually. It's very extremely authoritative, and his life, personal life, his military and political life, and then also his personal life, academic life, personal life. He's a multi-layered person, and we're amazed by a guy who who made PayPal, help with PayPal and what is it? PayPal, SpaceX, and Tesla. That's all he got. And all of them he copied from other people. But anyway, and those are like two things. This guy, like at a person level, he amazing. Like we have these amazing superstars.
We don't have enough knowledge about these guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like they are they're like polymaths. Like they're experts in multiple fields. Like we do have them. But
so the next polymath is Shaykh Khalid. What do you reckon, Lata? Experts in multiple fields.
Yeah.
So, he's like, where do I go with that one? That was pure sarcasm.
I'm a drone and reading fatwa books and
were you doing hifz while you were
doing podcasting
But were you doing hifz while you were flying your drone?
No, I was just making dua the wind doesn't, because you can't take it in strong wind. But I was just making dua that it doesn't get stuck in the tree. But we are very when you read about these people, our history is so munawwar. There's so much nur in it. One of my stars said, sometimes reading it makes you feel depressed at where the ummah is today.
But do you think also with the history, the way these guys are, it's also because they started early. Like right now, in our time, what I mean by started early is 18 is considered an adult. By the time you finish and you get married, you're like 25, 30. So the rate that we're maturing is a lot slower than these guys, like getting married at 12, 30. Not that I'm saying, whatever, right? But leading armies at 12. It was 12 a different time. Graduating. Yeah, they were being adults. By 12, they're adults. But 12, 13 years old, they're adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just that as well. Also, they were... develop. His parents were the kings, emperors. They appointed the best ulama of the time as tutors, right?
Yeah.
They appointed the best ulama of the time because the ulama were the holders of knowledge, right? Secular and dini knowledge. So they appointed the best tutors, right, from an early age. And of course, it's acceptance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah accepted him and appointed the best teachers for him.
Because out of the Mughals, there were a lot of other kings that came, but they weren't like him.
Exactly.
Look at his dad. Look at his old
there's
man.
no one like him. That's why... Before and after him, there's no one like him. It's said about Babur who conquered India, right? When he conquered India, he had certain views. He hated India and Indians when he conquered it. Like their great-great-grandfather, the father of the Mughals, like the forefather of the Mughals. He said it, like in his Baburnama, you read it, what he thought about Indians and about the land. Like compared to like Central Asia in terms of beauty and so forth, he hated it, like how it appeared to him. And he was a soldier, but he traveled with a library of books,
His Babur did?
Yeah. So I read Baburnama, his biography, and he's a very interesting person. They're all interesting. All those guys from Central Asia, those rulers, whether it be Temur Lang or whatever, the descendants of the Mongols, like they were very interesting. Like those Turkic rulers who, they became Muslim, and just the way they operated and their military prowess and the way they ruled. And even if you look at in the Ottomans as well, we talked a little bit last week at the end as well, they became more Europeanized in the 19th century. But if you look at them historically in the past, it was a messy, divided world. And trying to hold ground was an amazing feat. And they were constantly at war and so forth. But despite that, mashallah, they did a lot of khidmah for deen, and the ummah owes them a lot, especially in those regions that they ruled. Anyway, Aurangzeb, Alamgir, an amazing personality, worthwhile to have a look at his biography and the things that he achieved. But for me personally, I'm studying with the alim that reading with him. Subhanallah, he had some amazing things to say about the book, and we just got introduced to the book and started reading it this week. But worthwhile, a worthy subject of study, inshallah. Allah.
Inshallah. All right, so next week, live show for anybody that is listening, or anyone that makes it to the end of this show and listens to this. We will be going live next week. What's up? Monday at 8:30 Melbourne time. Is that what we said?
Yeah, 8:30. Instead of watching the movie, you know, we those who are older they'll understand. 8:30.
Bro,
8:30 was a very special time.
It's Netflix and Prime Video now, bro. It's whenever you want.
Yeah.
But
So 8:30.
Do you remember, Lata? That were you old? Are you old enough for that? The 8:30 movie start.
Yeah, bro. I'm 32.
On free to
32 now. I remember. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was
sometimes you're like a young tech.
Oh yeah. So the 8:30 we'll have a half hour. So what we're going to be doing is we have our Sunday release of our recording, which is separate, and we try to keep that within 1 hour. Today it's gone up to about an hour and a half again. But I think people at home anyway, about an hour 30 minutes. But what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 sessions during the week. Number one is which inshallah as a regular live session via the YouTube channel. So you're welcome to come and participate, ask questions, whatever, or discuss, put issues up. It's only going to be a short session. We'll see how it goes. And
we usually say short sessions. We usually say short sessions. Like our podcasts are meant to be, all right, let's wrap this up in an hour. If you just look at our history, it's never wrapped up in an hour. But if you feel like you want to talk about a topic, if you want to get something off your chest, feel free in that just to write so we can discuss it. Don't make it COVID.
Please don't make it a Q&A like fiqh questions, because that's not what this podcast is about. We just want to talk about community and some Islamic things. Yeah, so inshallah, it's just brothers getting together, and we have some chit chat and whatever, and inshallah in the Masjid Carpark.
And you're welcome to join live. So it will be 8:30 Australian time. So for all of our Indian viewers,
Australian Eastern Standard, AEST, not Australian time, because we have 3 time zones.
Melbourne time. Let's say Melbourne time.
Melbourne time. AEST, Eastern. Is it AEST? Australian Eastern Standard Time or something like that. Anyway, whatever.
ESTA,
Melbourne. We're in Melbourne, Australia. So Melbourne time, 8:30 p.m.
Melbourne time. So for anywhere else in the world, just Google it. What time is it in Melbourne? And then you can work it out. So I look forward to hearing from you, inshallah. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Leave any comments, and look forward to seeing you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.